If you're playing defense on Rocket League, you are inherently in a losing position. You are in a losing battle, right? You might have a great defense. You might have an outstanding counterattack. You can win 7-0 with it. Great. You won't do that every time, I promise you. You will meet the team that will smother you. You will meet the team that once they get onto your side, they will not let you back out. My goal is to make you that team.
Hey, this group coaching session was hosted by Rocket League Help. If you want to be a part of group coaching sessions like this in the future, make sure to join the Discord server in the description below. Thank you and enjoy the video.
Alrighty, hello everybody who has joined here today. Thank you for showing up. My name is Coach Scully. Quick introduction of myself. I've been coaching Rocket League for about 2 years. A year and a half of that has been as the academy director for Melon Patch Gaming, then the head of coaching development, and now just kind of just on my own, taking a few steps back from high staff roles there. The goals of today's session is going to be to, like the post said, go over some 3v3 transitional plays, mindsets, with a main focus on defensive transitions and proper ways and timings to cut. I'm going to have a little bit of a Word document presentation, and then I'll look in a replay and we'll together kind of go over where we see good and bad instances of what we talked about. And yes, I do mean together. So this is going to be an interactive session. I want everybody to be able to participate as much as they can. So normally when I come into a group chat and I see a bunch of people on mute, it makes me nervous. So unless you've got actually disruptive background noises, the mute button is unnecessary. I want to be able to talk to everybody. I want everybody's feedback. I want a conversation going, right? You remember more of a conversation that you took part of than one that you just kind of sat and listened to. This isn't your college lecture halls. And then also I might learn something new too, so that's great. Alrighty. Moving into the actual content. Does anybody have any questions moving forward?
No.
Thank you. Somebody who understands. Yeah, any question I ask is not rhetorical. I want the feedback. Makes me feel good that people listen.
So far, so good. Thank you.
Say it again.
So far, so good.
Alrighty, where is this? Okay, there it is. Alright, I'm sharing my screen if everybody can move their way. This grid. Cool, you'll miss. There we go. Defensive transitions. Little brief overview of how they should look versus how oftentimes they do. A lot of times when we are on the offensive side of the ball and we need to come back, we come back in a very in a very cluttered pattern that has an emphasis on either the net or a ball, but not really much forethought onto where we're going after that, what the job is that we're trying to accomplish, what we are on the field to do. So I have a easy little drawing here on how I like to see defensive transitions onto the defensive end go. It's ball, back, back. One person, the first man, either A, goes for the ball into that corner or goes straight for the net, depending on the time, the approach that he has, if he's going to be able to go around it or legitimately stop it. That is the choice he has to make. If he's going to hit that front post of the net, then turn onto the play, or go straight for the ball. Make sure that ping isn't relevant here. It is not. So that's first man's choice. That is his burden of responsibility he has to go for. He has to control this ball and make sure it is not entering into our little V here. And I like to draw the V from there to there. The ball is not very dangerous when it's on the outside of this V, and it poses extreme danger when it enters inside of this V. First man is to be that damage control. Make sure that is not happening. Second man hits the back post. And this is going to be something huge, right? This is going to prevent that clumping up that I was talking about before. The fact that you can break off of each other around this midfield line, one of you heading for the back post, the other one heading for the ball. And then the third man comes behind it. The last one to get there also hits the back post, but the difference, right? The second man to get back hits back post and goes onto the front. Front post job is to block the passing attempts. Anything coming across the midfield to attack that V that we showed earlier, that's this man's job. Let me change my color here to make things a little bit more visible. That man who comes to the front post, his job is to block that mid zone. The man that comes to the back post, his job is to defend the net from the direct shots or anybody who makes a pass that gets past the second man. Those are everybody's job. Controlling the ball, blocking the pass, blocking the shot. That's the mindsets you need to get there. I'm going to repeat this again a little bit later, but stop looking at Rocket League as first, second, third. I'm going to use those numbers a lot just because it's the language everybody knows, but start looking at it as what job you're covering, what needs to be done on the field, who is doing it. If second man isn't playing for the win, then maybe somebody needs to play for the win just in case the guy gets a pass on. If the technical third man isn't playing for the loss and he's on the opposite side of the field, then maybe the technical second man needs to back off and play just in case first man loses the ball. I'll talk about that more later, but that's just look at the field as the jobs. Here we got ball control, pass control, net control. Here's just more on that. First man. Cutting as we move on to this. And again, we're going to look at a replay a little bit later. There's just the expectations in your head, the standards in your head. So when we look at the replay, we know what to look for. The perfect second man cut follows a checklist that and I do mean quote unquote perfect because you can cut from any position from any time, but these are the things that I am looking for in my teams when I'm teaching them and observing them making cuts. As the team comes through, maybe you're transitioning back to defense, right? We're still talking about transition. So the whole team is moving back onto the defensive end. We've lost possession, we've lost offense. Now we're heading back to try to defend. But if you're playing defense on Rocket League, you are inherently in a losing position. You are in a losing battle, right? You might have a great defense. You might have an outstanding counterattack. You can win 7-0 with it. Great. You won't do that every time, I promise you. You will meet the team that will smother you. You will meet the team that once they get onto your side, they will not let you back out. My goal is to make you that team. You are the guys that whenever you get onto an opponent's side of the field, make sure that's not relevant. It's not. Once you get onto that side of the field, you do not leave the opponent's side of the field unless you specifically want more space, which is different strategy. So the checklist that I like to use for a perfect second man cut is the third man or person who was the third man is already all the way back, either going grab boost, recognizes the danger and left early, whatever the case may be, he is. Okay, come on, you were drawing here. Yeah, thanks. He is out of the play, and this thing is being aggravating. Whatever. We'll just have to visualize. He is out of the play. Third man is no longer present and no longer a danger to screw up. First man is finishing a recovery, grabbing the opponent's boost. Just finished a demo sweep. or just rotating back in general most of the time, preferably under the perfect situation on the other side of the field. Second man is caught in the middle of this quagmire, also going to defense, and sees the ball and sees an opportunity. This is the picture perfect, especially in the middle third of the field, right? That's one part I left out. In the center third of the field, first man's finishing starting a rotation, third man's finishing a rotation. Both of them are out of the play, middle third. Perfect, picture perfect second man cut. This gives you back possession of the ball. This takes your team from a retreating defense straight to an attacking offense. Now the person who was second man has possession. He has these options. He can go for a straight 50-50 and know that third man's going to come and support him and pick up the slack. He can go for an outlet pass over to first and know first man can make the cut back into that if he has to. He can solo play it up the side. All options are available at this point. All contingencies are available. Your team, who was just retreating and just about to take a defensive stance and get into that losing side of Rocket League that we don't be a part of, is now holding a solid offense again. And the greatest thing, as I always tell people, the best time to attack your opponent is when they think that they are starting an offensive transition. As soon as your opponents think that they're moving from their side to your side, that net is often left very vulnerable. So those cuts, especially when quick and followed up by a quick counter from the midfield, can take it to where that their third man is just, it might as well be AFK. He's out of the play. Very open nets can be found when you do this right, when you do this quick, because it gives the other side a false sense of confidence, a false sense of security that you can take full freaking advantage of. But these defensive transitions don't happen without some forethought, without being in the right place in general, right? You notice a separation, right? We still have our formation. We could still keep a tight formation. You know, it doesn't have to be this spread out, but the separation has to exist. And that all starts on the offensive side of the transition. On offense, you need to have a staggered exit from your offensive side. You cannot be leaving together. When leaving the offense, the ball carrier and the second man should have a considerable separation on either the X or the Y axis. What that means, I'll draw that over here off to the corner. Just a little false Rocket League screen. Say this is first man carrying the ball out. That's a shitty arrow, but pretend that it's great. Second man should either be staggered behind him or in line with him but far away. A considerable distance on either the X or the Y axis. And third man falls in line behind. Now, on the offensive side, this is where we really, really, really need to look at the jobs that are being covered, because this is where the clumping up happens. This is what's going to screw the defensive transition as you try to go forward. If first and second man are too close to each other and third man's over here wanting the pass, then because he thinks that man's third man, but he's also wanting a pass, but he's wanting a shallow pass and he's wanting a wide pass. And now you have 2 second man, 1 first man, and now you're going to have 3 people rotating back in a nice blob. And everything that we just talked about, the perfect cut, the great defense, amazing field control, it goes away. Because blobs do not transition well. Blobs do not control the field. Formations do. Teams do. That all starts from that offensive side. Pick a job. You have your ball carrier. You have somebody receiving a pass or playing the win, I like to call it, and somebody playing the loss. Normally we'd call this first, second, and third, but get rid of those names in your head, right? Because sometimes third man finds himself over here. He's not playing the loss at this point. right? The most important position on the field is the one behind the ball carrier because that is the most likely next place for the ball to go. If you did statistics on it, science on it, whatever you want to do, the most likely place for the ball to go is behind whoever's carrying. Because they're probably going to get hit by at least one or two players, and the ball is going to flush out straight to the back end of their car. Put some distance, put some space in between you two. I normally like to use the diamond of boost pads, big boost, then that one, then the one in the circle, one back there. A little diamond right there to show a good third man positioning. The diamond's behind the ball carrier. I'll draw that out when we actually are on the field. But those are the ways I like to look at it because sometimes second man over here needs to bleed out back here because our third man just isn't there yet. He isn't ready. And great thing about here is you can still be present for the shallow pass or even the back pass. You just lose out on the opportunity of the wide pass. But you know what? You're only switching because you had to. Third man was probably on this side. He's got that wide angle. So that's why a lot of people get confused on first, second, third because it becomes very ambiguous. The responsibilities switch so much. Just take a look at what jobs need to be covered on the field and how and who is or is not covering it. Who's covering the win? Who's covering the loss? Know your job. Read the play. Say that again? Oh, okay. Or not. Cool. So now comes the interactive part of everything, the main interactive part. Together, we're going to look at this little replay. This is a game I casted in the Futures version last Wednesday. And I love this team's midfield control, but they also make some mistakes. So if you notice something that I don't point out and want to talk about it, talk about it. If you have questions, comments, concerns, like something that's completely unrelated, this is the time. We've got an extra 40 minutes to go through this 5-minute replay, and I want to make it drag on.
Is there a chance to ask questions now, just about what we went through?
Absolutely, yeah, please do.
Yeah, I just had two questions. Playing the loss, you mentioned normally behind the ball carrier, statistically most likely place to have to be for play the loss. How about playing the win? Where would you sort of advise normally to try and position for that?
That's a good question. Playing the win is you're still on this screen, right? Okay. Playing the win is normally very second man. I've always said has the most difficult job on the field, right? Because while third man can just be shut off to a little diamond right there and be pretty much good, second man has to cover all of this and know which part of that to cover, right? Is the shallow backboard pass going to come in? Then he needs to be right here. Is the deep clear about to come up? That he needs to be right here. Is it about to be sent way the heck over? Then he needs to be right here. Second man does not have an easy job. His main goal is to be reading the play, right? So a lot of times, oh crap. A lot of times formations like this will happen where we have a second man kind of playing where that third should be, and that third man kind of back here in limbo, just waiting for the next thing, right? Just seeing how it's going to happen. Second man's main job is to be reading where the win is most likely to happen. It's going to change every single play versus every single defense. Where's the pass most likely to happen? If the first man's got some speed on him, then it's probably going to go across, be over here. If he's taking it up the wall nice and slow, then he's probably going to get underneath that and flip it out to you. Sit right here. If he's passing it from the midfield, then it's probably going to bang backboard or bang onto an opponent, get more to the center. But the main thing is never to get too close. Give yourself space, give the other team space to make a mistake, right? Because they're going to. You've been there 1,000 times. The pass comes across, the other team's going to save it. You dip in a little bit too close. They screw up. The net's wide open, the net's wide open and you are right there, but the ball is just slightly to the left of your car, and there's just no chance that you're going to get there, no matter the rank that you are. Give the other team space to make mistakes, and it'll give you space to read it. So that's a good question. Unfortunately, the reality of it is just hard to answer.
Oh, thank you. I had one other one, if no one else has any questions. Just on the first page about the defensive position, cutting second man. Yeah. So in this position, again, more of a question for like random games as opposed to organized teams.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trust here because you
There
can't really
is.
see the first and third in this situation as a second man.
Yes.
So at what point do you sort of develop this trust? It's a bit of a weird question, but
No, it's very valid. It's very valid. Okay, so two answers for you. One's a little bit longer than the other. First one is camera work is a mechanic. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. You've got all these buttons to press, and you have to move your camera in between everything. Everybody needs to stop treating camera work like it's an option and treat it like it's a mechanic. And I don't just mean flipping on and off ball cam to get a quick glance. I mean actual intentional camera work. So wherever you are on the harder sets of your training and free play that you're capable of doing at a consistent level, like it's still difficult for you, but you can like I'm getting to the point where I can kind of consistently get my double taps, but it's very difficult for me to get it consistently. Well, now when I try to go up for them, I'll try to throw in like view back left boost before I make this next touch. View front right. I'll pick out a specific area on the field that I want to look at before I make my next touch or while I'm making a specific touch. Camera work is a mechanic. Train it like it is. All right, that'll alleviate a lot of this, especially in randos. Second thing, Rocket League at its core is not a passive game. It is active. It is ball chasey. It is aggro. It is go, 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 go. Ego challenging is such an OP strategy. There's a reason Platinums can give GCs hell, not just by playing weird, but just simply by being little monkeys. Ever gone against somebody so below your rank that you were embarrassed to get the ball stolen off your car? Off your head, it's because they didn't give you the space that you want to do what you wanted to do. Whereas people at your rank will respect you, fake challenge, and back off. The little platinums are just going to come and take it right off your car. Well, that's not an invalid strategy when you get to your own rank. Ego challenging is powerful. Knowing how to do it is game changing. So while Squishy Muffins might tell you how to fake challenge really well, when you try to put it into ranked, it's going to look real bad. Ego challenging, though, learning the art of it, learning the flow of it, learning when to go, it comes across a lot better. But the big thing when you do it is you're going to be keeping a good eye on that third man here. That is your target person, right? Because this man, the first guy, can come and double commit with you and it'll suck, but it'll kind of make sense because you each have the same idea. But if third man comes and double commits with you, that's your defense. You're right. There's a diamond level strategy that I tell people is always go for a ball that you have support on and never go for a ball that you have no support on. Obviously, once you get higher rank, that's not as true of a statement. But here, third man back here, you have support, go for the ball. Always go for the ball that you have support. If he double commits with you, you lose that support. So that's where camera work as a mechanic comes into play. Does that answer your question?
yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Alrighty, now let's switch my screen. Change screen, go live. Alrighty. Everybody seeing this okay? Let's see. Let's forgot to change something. All right, now should all be able to see that just fine. Awesome. Can y'all see the drawings just fine?
Yep.
Cool beans, coolio beanios. And that ping is that relevant? No, it is not. Alrighty. So we're going to watch through this, talking specifically about the offensive and defensive transitions, why the good ones worked, why the bad ones didn't. I like monkey see, monkey do. I love that midfield presence. I love how they're lining up here, right? This is another good question for those uncertain second man, or another good answer to your uncertain second man. Notice how third man is giving second man enough space to choose what his next move is going to be. Right now, we technically have two people covering the loss and one person covering any wins by the first. He loses it, second man gets there, and we just replace. We keep on moving. Notice how quick, though, Nickel coming back. He doesn't go all the way back. He doesn't overcommit backwards. Now, this is I think a GC2 team, so they're experimenting around with some of this play style, and you can kind of tell as they do some stupid things here and there. But I do love this offensive transition. One leaves and chases the ball. The other one comes behind him to support him. And notice, you see right there the active decision to turn away from the play because he sees his teammate going for it. Right? That's what I love to see as a coach when I'm with a team, is the car language that indicates an active decision-making process. Nickel, straight, the active turn to get out of dodge and be ready for what's next. Look at Brzinger, third man challenging early onto Arrow. Had Brzinger right here fake challenged the ball, because Arrow's up, he's probably going to win that, especially if Arrow's super fast. Fake Brzinger fake shadow defense position. The ego challenge allows his team to stay on offense. Sav, even with very, very little boost, makes a turn on this. Now he's about to make a mistake. He overestimates his amount of boost and doesn't end up doing anything. But he holds the defense still, and Nickel recognizes this and continues the aggression, continues to keep up the pace. The ego challenge does not go away. I think they're GC3, actually. I think they're closer to rank B. But anyway, that's not neither here nor there. Nickel comes in and makes an exact replacement. The main goal is to keep the team on offense, supporting each other in the process. And boom, the defensive transitions were perfect, right? Look at this. Ball carrier, Brzinger, the active decision making to go to the back post or to the middle of the net. Cars only drive so perfectly. Supports behind him. Sav goes upfield. Now comes the extension play. And notice Nickel, he just did come off of a demo respawn, so he's kind of there already. But still, this is a perfect transition to offense, leading to a perfect transition to defense, leading to a perfect counterattack. Counterattacks are this easy when the defensive transitions are that good. Boom, boom, into the net. Oh, my bad. Love how Brzinger lingers there in the middle of the field, ready to go back if he's needed to, but also ready to cut in. That's what his car language is telling me, that if he needs to go back, he can. But at the second he's needed to keep this team on offense, that's what he's going to do. And Lotus, he goes behind his teammate. It seems so common sense. It seems so repetitive, like everybody's told you to do it 1,000 times, but this is what I mean. Ball carrier, back post, back post. Simple little things make the game flow so well. And look, he can't cover the pass, so Sav covers the pass that's coming across. Ball carrier, Sav goes to support. Nickel goes across, and now here's one of those situations, right, where we have a second man and a third man that's kind of in ambiguous positionings, right? This is why I don't like to call them as such. But they do eventually fall into their roles. Nickel now has to make the choice. You saw him peek over to the net. It's like I was saying earlier, this is our V. Right? Not so dangerous out here, pretty dangerous in here. He comes over, makes a quick peek over to the safety zone, right? Because it's pretty easy. It has to come in here to be scoreable at some point, so why not just get there first? It's a very intelligent play. But he makes a peek, recognizes that he can cut this off earlier, and then comes back in for control, allowing his teammates to fall in behind him. I love that little power slide. And the soft touch up into the corner. I don't know if he meant to do this soft in that way, but his teammates have so much time now to fall in line because of that. I don't necessarily love Brazinger's rotation on this, but it does end up working. So make the best of what is given to you. The pass comes across. And here we have our first instance of what could be a cluttered. I love this. It could have been a cluttered transition, right? Because they came in, if they would have continued to transition to defense together, this would have been a very bad defensive transition. No good would have came of this. But look at what Brazinger does. His mind is on keeping offense. He does not want defense. He stays there. Both teammates behind him. Why not? He stays there. And now let's see, does his team keep offense because of this? No, they do not. Happens like that sometimes. Oh, and here's another one. The second person in the formation is actually third man. The third person in the formation is actually second man. It's ambiguous. Nickel is not covering pass. He's covering loss. Sav is not covering loss. He's covering pass and a little bit of loss. Pass comes across. Sav gets it. I love this formation. This is a really good offensive transition. Knows a Nickel sticks to his spot, right? Take possession of your positioning. Don't take possession of a ball. Don't take possession of a role. Take possession of a position, of a job. He notices that he's in the perfect position to be there for something. So he just sticks there. He doesn't move fast. The big M word, the big momentum word that we were all taught at a young rank to conserve momentum at all times. And that's a very play style specific thing. For everybody else, momentum does not win games, positioning does. There are teams and play styles who momentum through their positions really, really, really well. If that is not your play style, then momentum is not your best friend. But positioning, that's everybody's best friend. Speed in Rocket League comes from where you are, not how fast you can move your. Be in the right spot, and you'll be surprised how fast the play spills. Making it look easy now. Again, notice how tightly Sav rotates back in, right? Now, if there would have been a big potential for a deep clear, he would not have rotated this close, this tightly. but as his third man, he does not go deep back for no reason. Oh, and here's something I did forget to mention. When making your cuts or your challenges, the main thing to look out for, like I said earlier, mid-third of the field, that was kind of a half-truth. What I really mean is in front of the box. This 2 boxes. This area, this crossed off area, it's crossed off for a reason. It's a very sketchy place to make a initial challenge, especially when you have a teammate behind you, right? Imagine if Brazinger would have sat here nervously and passively and waited for this ball to come all the way back into this first zone and then decided to make his challenge. Imagine how awkward Nickel would be. The challenge that Brazinger makes right there, that's the only one that will be made. If he doesn't force that ball to go backboard, that's it. It's up to luck at that point. Hopefully, Sav comes in and cuts. Hopefully, the ball somehow hits on Nickel's car, right? The earlier you make your challenges, the earlier you make your cut, the better. Because if you wait too long, if you start cutting closer and closer and closer to your box, there's going to be some defender there who will double commit you. And if he doesn't, then he's going to be caught flat-wheeled with no momentum, no direction of any kind, completely lost in the sauce. Make your challenges, make your cuts, make your ego chows ahead of the batter's box. That is going to make it so much easier on the people behind you. And especially in a situation like this, even if Brazinger knows that he has 50-50, he needs to force whatever move is going to come. Sitting back, all 3 of you, is the most useless thing that can happen. One person forcing the other team to show their hand, even if they don't make a touch on the ball, even if they don't even make a touch on the player, force the hand that is coming. That has nothing to do with transit. I mean, it has something to do with cuts. That's how you cut, yeah. But that's general Rocket League advice that I really love seeing here. That early challenge. Notice the attention. Every single time Brazinger is caught with a teammate, he makes an active decision to break away. That is something very high IQ, very good field awareness. That every single time he is too close to a teammate, he finds some way, shape, or form to break away from that person. I love this. This is definite. This isn't your traditional cut of rotation, but this is a very strong third man play, playing that more aggro style of third man. This, though, is a cut. This is almost picture perfect. Like we were talking, this is middle third of the field. This is our third man rotating back. Our first man preoccupied, as you can see. Second man in Brazinger comes to make the cut. This is Viscrid. This is one of those situations that you could see live on the field. It's not, when it's done right, it's not as confusing or as necessary for trust as you might think, because these situations are fairly common and fairly easy to read, especially when you've got these big yellow behemoths in the back, because this guy, loves to go for one of those. Of course, as a team, you can do it more intelligently, and of course, there's going to be times you screw it up a lot, but that's why you practice it. Because if you double commit it with somebody, you need to figure out if that was your mistake or theirs. Timing is everything. Look at Sav reading this play, right? He's there for the win. He's there for the pass, but he knows that pass is not going to come to him. So you can see he's already turned his nose out. He's already ready to corral the ball. This is what I mean by reading the play as your second man or as your person playing the win. Goes a little bit faster than he thought it would. All good. Brzinger starts to cut, recognizes it's futile, and leaves it for his teammates who are ready. And is just there. I love an aggro third man because deep clears are so hard to accomplish when they don't have space to hit the ball like that. This is another really good cut from Nickel, and he also makes it at a really good time. The issue is that the transition wasn't as staggered. Sav couldn't get back in time to make a proper read, and the transition from the opponents was just clutch. It was very good. They came out together in the middle of the field, which we all know the middle of the field's harder to defend than the sides. The options are just plentiful. He makes a perfectly timed cut. Great job, great everything, but he just gets flicked over, and then the pass coming across. Add the extra speed. Nickel gave Sav all the time that he needed to read it, and Sav read it, but it just wasn't fast enough. And sometimes it's just going to happen. You can do everything right and still lose. There's another situation where Brzinger and Nickel find themselves cluttered together. Nickel makes a beeline for the net, guarding that V. Brzinger makes the cut. Sav is coming in to back post behind him. Again, another perfect situation. And the transition comes through. A little bit of a double commit, but that's, you can do everything right and still screw up. Now we're locked down on defense, and you can see this kind of suffocating presence. You can see the defensive the defensive rotations getting more and more depleted as time goes on. 2 people in the corner. Now you can see these guys start to panic a little bit, start to screw up. Seo going all the way back, not guarding his V. The ball gets around him quite easily and straight in. This is a failure as third man, playing overly passive as a third man or not guarding the right parts. He goes for the boost instead of the net. Ends up back passing it to Brzinger. Too easy.
I'm just wondering on that last play. You mentioned he was playing too passive as a third man, but then he did go and challenge in the corner, but still he did go for the challenge and sort of intervene as opposed to sitting in the goal or going back to the goal.
Right. That's
So
a good observation. Okay, so right here we have 2 players far up. Let's break this down and make sure I use the right wording, because sometimes I will word things in a different way than I mean them. That's people for you. Get sent past him right there. I think if it was the blue team, from what we've seen of the blue team, this is where Brzinger or Nickel or Sav would have challenged this ball. They would have gone for this 50-50 because this midline is important to the blue team. It is not as important to the orange team. The nose has already given up, right? So the fact that this wasn't an active challenge makes me feel like he's a little bit more passive, because his nose was facing retreat from the get-go. Even though he's close to his aggressive spot with the diamond, his nose has always been, and his car language has always been saying retreat the entire time. It's not in and of itself a bad thing. It is but it is a passive thing. Whereas these guys are being very aggressive, you're seeing a little bit of passivity coming from Seo, which it could just be a playstyle thing, but you have to know how to play your passivity, right? With zero support, because he has 0 support for a very long time. He needs to choose either buy time here or buy time here. Buying time here is a non-option, right? For one, this is the most awkward place to challenge or I'm sorry, this is the most awkward place to challenge the ball on the field. It just, so many weird bounces, so many weird things can happen. There's so much of a risk of passing it that if it comes, a lot of times those balls come out to the center, and if they do, you want somebody in the net to go grab that. So you need to find pick your battle where you want to buy time. He kind of chose both options. And this is the thing about choosing two options, right? There's an old proverb that says, "He who chases after two feathers shall catch neither." Well, he chose to both give space and time and be aggressive at the same time. And as you can see, neither result ended up happening. And then, of course, there's the temptation of the boost. And then, as you can also see, his nose was facing the wrong direction because he went and grabbed boost. Even if he chose, like my drawing said, to come in this middle right here and actually had his nose facing the play, the result could have been cataclysmically different. It could have been so much more in his favor. But pointing your ass towards the play like this, the ball's over here, you're last man back all by yourself, and you put your ass towards the play, is just so much of a bad idea when you don't have to, right? Shadow defense is a situation we get forced into. It is not a choice we make to be. Right? A lot of people watching Squishy Muffins is not a good way to learn how to play Rocket League unless you really want to emulate Squishy Muffins. Because a lot of people have referenced him when I tell them about like the dangers of shadow defense or the dangers of passive play, and they're like, well, he's so good at it. I'm like, yeah, because he's got like 15,000 hours of trying to be good at that specific thing. We don't. If that's your goal, then go for it. But if we're just trying to get good at Rocket League, your headlights are much better at hitting the ball than your taillights. Try to make that the case.
Thanks.
Yeah. And if you ever have a different opinion than me on something, you know, like I said, maybe I can learn something too. But I very much appreciate your participation. Notice the clutter and release. This team does not stay balled up. And that's one thing I love about them, especially when they have the space, when they have the control. They only kind of clutter up when they're panicking. They're right here in a singular ball, instantly release that ball, instantly release that pressure or that tension. And Brazinger, noticing he's lost this and the next person is hot on its trail, he doesn't even think about retreating, right? A lot of people in this situation, they'll make that turn and they'll kind of point their nose slightly here before making this cut, and then this ends up being a 50-50 because they hesitated. They thought, do I need to retreat or not? That didn't even cross his mind. That could come back to bite him later. Very well could get a ball cleared over his head because of that. But in this case, and in most cases this game, you've seen where the no hesitation to cut, like he doesn't even think about the back boost. He doesn't even think about the net here or retreat. Even though this guy's hot on this ball's tail, immediate action. And it doesn't take much hesitation, especially at these 1,800 lobbies. You can know that you're going to go for the ball, but just for the split second, think maybe what if, and it'll end up being a 50-50 instead of an objective win right here. And I love this here. Another thing when I say slow position, Nickel driving so slowly backwards, just in case he needs to retreat. But as soon as he doesn't, boom, the action is on. He is right there, quick to the attack. Fast acceleration from an amazing position makes amazing results. Momentum from nowhere makes nothing. Look at that cut. Now, this is a good example of a third man cut. your entire team's retreating, and you say, no, guys, we still got offense. And also, look at this. The other team, all of them moving in this direction. This is the perfect time to score. Right? This is what I mean. Those cuts are so powerful because he's got teammates, Brazinger's got teammates to support. All he has to do is break past this line. And
Kind of the opposite of what I asked about earlier, right? That was the one defender on the blue side and
right,
teammates in the other corner.
right. A little bit of the opposite. Yeah, the opposite of what we were talking about earlier. I love this. This is a risky play. Make no mistake, this is risky. This is practiced. He has rehearsed this over and over again. Many of us will fail at trying to make cuts like this. But this is just the player that Brazinger is. He does this on a daily. That cut is nearly perfect. The only flaw is that it ran into Sav's rotation backward. And that's kind of on Sav. But also notice how they came back to the net. Sav went for the ball, then Brazinger went for the ball, and Nickel went to that back post. And then Brazinger just over here trying to show off. Clanger banger, Sav right there for the pass in if he needs to be. This was a great game. I had so much fun casting these guys because their midfield control just consistently left me staggered and bewildered, man. It was so much fun watching these guys play. Alrighty, we've had some awesome participation from Visgrid. I will pronounce that wrong every time, so forgive me.
I
Any?
do have a question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, before you were talking about the shadow defense and how,
Yeah.
you know, Squishy's like, oh yeah, shadow defense is great because he practices it all the time.
Yeah.
If you're in a situation where shadow defense is necessary, okay, let me rephrase this. I don't know how I want to rephrase this. Like,
Words are hard.
but
I get it.
yeah, if you're in a position where shadow defense is necessary, obviously you should do it. But how do you make it so that you're never in a position where shadow defense is necessary?
Getting that comes from a little bit of premonition, right? Reading that play very well. Knowing, okay, like we saw Seo or S3D or whatever his name is. We saw him put himself in a shadow defense position earlier, right?
Mm-hmm.
By taking an option, by taking a route that took him away from the net. If you're always coming from the net outward, then you should never have an issue. The only time shadow defense becomes an extreme necessity should be on quick counterattacks when you have to stop a counterattack from coming through. And you can even prevent that if you've got good premonition. Like if you know the deep clear is about to come, if you see see them forming into an attack triangle and starting to beat your defense or beat your offensive midline, right? You can get to that net early and be like, this isn't going to happen. Or you can go and cut off the passing lane that they're about to use to make you awkward, stuff like that. It's all about controlling the field. Controlling a team that does a very good job of controlling the field should never have to be faced with too many extremely awkward situations. But they come up, and that's why we train the mechanic.
Okay.
But as a general answer, just come from the net. Don't come from awkward angles.
Okay. Does this translate well into twos as well? Like, because in twos, I know it's a whole different beast.
It is.
But
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish.
yeah, that Seo or whatever his name is, the S3, whatever.
Yeah.
If he was, you know, trying to shadow defend and his teammate, I can't remember where they were, but I think they were somewhere like midfield. at that point, like, should he waste the time to try and turn himself around so that he's facing front, or should he be trying to clear the ball into the corner so that it saves time for his teammate to come back? Like,
That's a good question, because one thing, kind of reaching to the higher ranks right now, a lot of us. So what we don't want to be doing is giving people at our rank time and space, because we're at the level where time and space equals way too many options. So that's a legitimate fear. Going back to turn yourself around offers that time and space, especially when you're the last man. That's why I really love the aggressive early cuts. And in twos is where you're really going to see the squishy play style come a little bit more to fruition, where those fake challenges become nice. But again, you have to be very strong. In that situation that Seo was in, if that was twos, I would have just rather see him go for the ball initially, just like I would have rather see him to go for the ball initially in threes.
yeah.
All right. Especially in twos, because you have much less support. Right, in threes, you would have definitely seen another orange player or another blue player come and attack that and possibly make him regret that. But if in twos, if his teammate was out of the play, chances are probably so is the other person's teammate.
Got it. Okay.
So yeah, as far as cutting and transitioning, well, I think it does translate very well into twos. What's mainly going to be the big difference is you're going to be covering more when you're not the ball carrier. You're covering more of the loss with an option to go for the pass. And on defense, you're covering more of the net with an option to challenge early.
Yeah. Okay.
Any other questions? Yeah, so I've got a question. Mostly relates to six mans because I'm not like in a league or anything. But are there like any necessary comms I should be having, like in rank B and stuff, where like I'm cutting or something? Do I just need to like where like my teammates can't possibly know what I'm gonna do, like where I should be communicating something?
Yeah, comms, that's always a tricky one, right? Because a lot of people, comms is the band-aid of Rocket League. I've seen so many teams that don't know how to play Rocket League together say they can't play because their comms suck. No, that's not it. Comms is the icing on top of a cake. If your cake is shit, icing is not going to make it look good. But if your cake is beautiful, icing is going to make it better. If your team is shit together, comms are not going to fix it, right? Because this game is fast as fuck. You don't know what you're doing half the time until after you've did it. That's why practice is so important. That's why repetition is so important. You do something 1,000 times, and the smart play becomes the instinctive play. We try to train intelligence into our instincts because we don't have enough time to think unless we're on a slower transition. So in those instances, what I do like saying is, since we don't really know what we're doing, we normally have a better sense of what we want our teammates to do. So by giving kind orders, like not being a bossy dick on the field, but telling your teammates where you want them to be, where you think they're going to be, where you expect them to be, gives a lot more confidence to you on what you're going to do, and the exact same information to them. Like if you say go back versus I'm cutting, right? You don't know if you're really going to be cutting. You think you want to, you have a feeling, but that feeling's like there in a split second, and you either got to go or not. By the time you say I'm cutting, you could have just opted out of the whole situation and just like, you know what, this isn't the right time. But telling your teammate go back, that's a forever command. You know that's what you're expecting him to do regardless of what you're doing. So that's why I normally try to correct strategic comms, is that you try to IGL it a little bit and say what you're expecting on the field. Either give information or give expectation. Saying what you're going to do all the time is just unrealistic because it's too fast. Does that help?
Yeah, no, you answered that wonderfully. Thank you.
One more quick question.
Absolutely.
You were saying earlier, like way earlier, that training that camera as a mechanic.
Yeah.
Do you have like tips on like swivel speed and stuff? Like where do you, is that like an each person basis, or like do you think that a certain swivel speed is better for that or worse for that?
That's a really good question, actually. I've never experimented around with different swivel speeds. I mean, I would guess it would just be more of your own personal preference. What can you control? Like, right? Like I was saying earlier on tips on how to train it, like go for a mechanic, go for an aerial, and try to locate a certain item on the field. And if it becomes very difficult for you to control your camera, then maybe fix that swivel speed. So I would just say figure that out for yourself. I haven't experimented enough.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I was trying a training pack like you were saying with that and trying to test it, and I noticed that I'm like getting dizzy because of the swivel on it. So
Right, right. The idea is that you're able to specifically look for a certain teammate in an area that you expect him to be at, or you're worried he might be at, or a specific opponent. So if you're comfortable using your camera to pick out specific things and intentional things around the field, then you're gonna have no problem translating that to the field. So even if it's a really slow swivel speed, if you can just get the information you need, I think that's more than enough because it's more than what everybody else is doing, right?
yeah.
Especially solo queue.
hmm Thank you.
Yep, yep. All right. Is there any more questions? Coolio Beanios. All righty. So I have a question. Did everybody get value out of the session?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love to hear that. Love to hear that. Right. I always got to make sure I reassure myself because I am like lowly champ 2, champ 3. I just grind coaching a lot. While you're in 6 mans, I'm making a 35-page document. Alrighty. Well, I'll go ahead and let things end right there. My team is actually waiting for me in our VC, so I will catch everybody later. Rin, thank you for having me. Everybody, thank you for coming, and go kick ass.
Thank you.